is just nuts. And un-American itself is also something we shouldn't gloss over. You know, the only thing that's un-American to me is people who call other Americans un-American. And the president get numbed into forgetting that.
Yeah, and let me just add, I think that part of the problem for Trump supporters, and even if they make fair criticisms about the media, about Democrats who oppose the president, there's a willingness to compartmentalize this president and to simply willfully disregard comments like this, behavior like this, some of his attacks, which they don't support, but they're willing to say, yeah, but. And it's important that to take the president in full when you're evaluating him.
Well, I mean, listen, having spoken to many of them, they feel that the policy is more important than the words. And so, yes, they admit they compartmentalize and that they do so because they believe in the regulation rollbacks, they believe in the tax cuts, they believe in the Supreme Court pick. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, they admit that they're doing that. And, you know, obviously we just all talk about whether or not there's ever a tipping point for people in the middle.
All right, guys, we're going to talk much more about this as the morning continues. Vice President Mike Pence heading the U.S. delegation to the Winter Olympics. Will he meet with North Korean officials while there? We have a live report from South Korea next.
First, let me thank General Lord.
You're a rich girl, and you're going too far, 'cause you know it don't matter anyway.
I'm a soldier in the People's Army.
The Radical Story of Patty Hearst premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
If you have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, little things can be a big deal. That's why there's Otezla. Otezla is not an injection or a cream. It's a pill that treats psoriasis differently. With Otezla, 75% clearer skin is achievable after just 4 months, with reduced redness, thickness, and scaliness of plaques. And the Otezla prescribing information has no requirement for routine lab monitoring. Don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Tell your doctor if these occur. Otezla is associated with an increased risk of depression. Tell your doctor if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts or if these feelings develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Other side effects include upper respiratory tract infection and headache. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla, show more of you.
This is where life expresses itself as an endless flow of energy. Are you ready? Atlantis. Bahamas at heart.
Book by February 14th for the best winter rates at 1-800-Atlantis or AtlantisBahamas.com.
They put in their time, raised their families, and served our country. Moms and dads, grandparents. Hospitals are caring for more seniors than ever before. But as part of a looming budget battle, Congress might make deep cuts to Medicare funding for hospitals. Experts warn that this year's flu is one of the worst in years, and seniors are especially vulnerable. Congress could hurt access to care when seniors and all of us need it the most. Urge Congress, don't cut Medicare funding for hospitals.
Today's workplace is rapidly changing, and HR professionals must be at the top of their game. Nothing spells that more clearly than SHRM CP and SHRM SCP, the profession's premier competency-based certifications from SHRM. Ongoing training to help you build a thriving workplace and keep your HR career on the move. SHRM CP, SHRM SCP. Credentials that say,
I am ready because I am. I am SHRM certified.
Learn more at shrm.org/SHRM certified.
A businessman consumed with power, a family obsessed with winning, and a dynasty destined for the presidency.
The Kennedys premieres Sunday, March 11th at 9 on CNN. News doesn't just break.
A growing number of complaints and allegations about sexual impropriety.
Splinters in different directions.
Breaking news, Steve Bannon ripping into the president's son in a new book.
Takes unexpected twists and turns.
They don't accept the Israeli claim to Jerusalem.
And our trusted NBC News journalists will guide you through every one.
Donald Trump seeks to tighten the vice on North Korea.
So wherever the story goes.
How is this White House going to answer this question tomorrow?
You'll be right there with it.
We use our phones and computers the same way these days. So why do we pay to have a phone connected when we're already paying for internet? Shouldn't it all just be one thing? That's why Xfinity Mobile comes with your internet. You can get up to 5 lines of talk and text included at no extra cost. So all you pay for is data. Choose by the gig or unlimited. And now get a $200 prepaid card when you buy an iPhone. It's a new kind of network designed to save you money. Call, visit, or go to XfinityMobile.com.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
Mesothelioma, it's all we do. With 7 offices across the country, let us come meet with you. Call us at 1-800-213-8000.
Vice President Mike Pence arriving in Japan any moment, before then heading to South Korea for the Winter Olympics. Before leaving, the vice president became the second Trump administration official to signal a willingness to meet with North Korean officials. CNN's Ivan Watson is live in Pyeongchang, South Korea, with more. What's the latest, Ivan?
That's right. Vice President Pence, he's supposed to be leading the U.S. delegation here at the opening ceremonies of the upcoming Winter Olympics, but he is also bringing a tough message for North Korea. Take a listen to what he had to say at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska.
We're traveling to the Olympics to make sure that North Korea doesn't use the powerful symbolism in the backdrop of the Winter Olympics to paper over the truth about their regime. We'll be telling the truth about North Korea at every stop. We'll be ensuring that whatever cooperation that's existing between North and South Korea today on Olympic teams does not cloud the reality of a regime that must continue to be isolated by the world community.
But while having these tough words for North Korea, Vice President Pence also said we'll see what happens when talking about whether or not there'd be any meeting with the North Koreans here at the Winter Olympics. Meanwhile, the North Koreans are coming in large numbers here to Pyeongchang. A ferry boat arrived carrying more than 100 North Koreans will be performing in concerts in South Korea tomorrow. A delegation of more than 200 people, including cheerleaders and a taekwondo demonstration team, arriving. This in addition to 22 athletes who will also be competing in the games. North Korean state media has come out really hard against President Trump in the last 24 hours, denouncing his State of the Union speech. And while also trying to reach out to the South Koreans and talk about unity, they're sending a bit of a mixed message. They're going to stage a military parade for the first time ever on the eve of the opening ceremony of the Olympics, when they'll show off their missiles, which isn't quite the message of unity that perhaps the South Korean government was hoping to receive here.
No,
John?
it seems like both North Korea and the U.S. trying to send messages at different levels at the same time. Ivan Watson for us at the Olympics in Pyeongchang. Ivan, great to have you there. President Trump's lawyers reportedly urging him not to meet with special counsel Robert Mueller's teams. The president's allies say it is a perjury trap. We have a debate you don't want to miss next.
Running a business is not for the faint of heart. Luckily, Office Depot Office Max is here to take care of you. Taking care of business. With print services. Done right, on time, guaranteed. Expert tech support. And this week, all Office Depot brand paper is buy one, get one, 50% off. Plus, never run out with an Office Depot paper subscription. Subscribe today at OfficeDepot.com/subscriptions. Taking care of business.
Your insurance company won't replace the full value of your totaled new car. The guy says, you picked the wrong insurance plan. No, I picked the wrong insurance company.
With Liberty Mutual new car replacement, you won't have to worry about replacing your car because you'll get the full value back, including depreciation. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-844-592-2089 for a free quote today. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Good questions lead to good answers. Our advisors can help you find both. Talk to one today and see why we're bullish on the future. Yours.
This
This is a last chance alert. It's happening. In just days, Publishers Clearinghouse will definitely award the $5,000 a week forever prize. Win, and you get $5,000 a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5,000 a week for their life. This prize must be awarded on February 23rd, so don't miss your final chance to win. Enter by mail or at pch.com before it's too late. Hurry, February 23rd, you could win $5,000 a week forever. Don't miss out.
I'm a breakfast person. But what's really important for you in a hotel? Location? Cleanliness? Or maybe the quality of your bed? Well, you're in luck, because Trivago's got you covered. Trivago shows you how all the things you like in a hotel stack up against other hotels. Ratings for breakfast, location, and even cleanliness are calculated for more than 140 million reviews. I'll take that. And that's just one more way Trivago helps you find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
She was the victim of the most bizarre kidnapping in American history. Was she a hostage? Or was she a terrorist? The radical story of Patty Hearst premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
There are 7 continents, 7 seas, but at Celebrity Cruises, we'd argue more than 7 wonders. For a limited time, enjoy 2 free perks like complimentary Wi-Fi and drinks. Plus savings for everyone in your stateroom when you book now during the Celebrity Cruises Sail Beyond event.
If ever you needed a definition of man's best friend, it's right here at Villalobos. Getting her off the street was just the beginning.
I always wanted to be part of something besides a gang.
There is a lot more work to do out here.
Pit Bulls and Parolees, all new Saturdays at 9 on Animal Planet.
This program is brought to you locally by
Millie's Furniture, just what you're looking for.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
So the New York Times reporting this morning that the president's lawyers are concerned he could incriminate himself or be charged with lying to investigators if he meets with special counsel Robert Mueller. The president's longtime supporter Newt Gingrich shares that concern.
And I think the idea of putting Trump in a room with 5 or 6 hardened, very, very clever lawyers, all of whom are trying to trap him, would be a very, very bad idea.
Don't put him in a room with smart people because he might lie to them. Could an interview with the special counsel be a perjury trap for the president? Let's discuss with CNN legal analyst Michael Zeldin, who worked with Robert Mueller, and CNN legal commentator Ken Cuccinelli. Michael Zeldin, to you. There are 3 questions here, right? Let's try to address them one at a time here. Why won't the president testify or talk to Robert Mueller's team? Can he be forced to? And what does this fight look like? First, to the why he won't testify, Michael Zeldin. Newt Gingrich and the president's allies call it a perjury trap. That's a loaded phrase, Michael.
Well, a perjury trap actually is a term that has a definition. It is a form of entrapment. It is impermissible, and it implies that the prosecutor is bringing the witness into the grand jury for the sole purpose of getting him to lie so he can charge him with that lie. That is not what is going on here, and Newt Gingrich is just flat out incorrect about that. What is going on here is a duly constituted special counsel is investigating a matter, and he wants testimony with respect to that matter. That witness is subpoenaed or called under a voluntary process, and the witness is asked to answer questions. If the witness is truthful in his answers, then there's no perjury. If he lies in his answers, then there's perjury. But it is not a trap.
You know, Ken Cuccinelli, I do not have the legal expertise you have, but in my 45 years of research, I've always found the best way not to get caught lying is to not lie.
Well, first of all, certainly Michael's correct about the technical use of the term perjury trap, but Newt Gingrich is a history professor, not a lawyer. I think he was using it descriptively in the context of President Trump and his personality type. And look, he is the king of hyperbole. Mm-hmm. And that personality type and his stubbornness about it are really not well suited to sitting down and giving particularized, specific answers. I mean, that's what Newt Gingrich is talking about, which doesn't suggest that anything that Michael said about the term is wrong from a legal perspective. I agree with him. But I think that Newt Gingrich is being descriptive. And when you look at somebody like Donald Trump, if you're a lawyer, if I were his lawyer, I'd be very, very concerned about whether or not walking through a hypothetical interrogation, if you will, repeatedly with his personality type is going to be adequate to get him disciplined enough to stay away from the hyperbole that can get him in real trouble. Another way to think about it is, do you get the State of the Union Donald Trump who stays on message and so forth? And of course, that was a written speech. Or do you get the more common Donald Trump who really says whatever comes into his head without even double-checking himself in public remarks frequently and so forth? That's a real danger for the president. But the bottom line is that given the process that the special counsel is in, they can compel him to talk to them. I do think that President Trump's lawyers would be wise, and I'm sure will succeed in, getting limits put around, as Bill Clinton's lawyers did, the manner and place and duration of that kind of questioning.
So Michael Zeldin, Ken brought up the key point there. Can the special counsel Robert Mueller force the president to answer questions? How does that work?
He can. He has a power of grand jury subpoena, and he can compel the witness, in this case the president, to appear. There is nothing in the law that I have found that sort of reflects on the possibility that there needs to be some sort of threshold, which is the word that his lawyers are using, some threshold that has to be met before the president has his right to receive a grand jury subpoena and be compelled to testify. And so this notion that somehow Newt Gingrich, the historian, is going to tell Robert Mueller, the prosecutor, that he doesn't want his friend President Trump to testify is really besides the point. And the truth of the matter is, they would be much better off, notwithstanding Ken's counsel to the president, which is correct. The president has to learn how to stay on message, which in this case is on the truth. But they would be much better off to take a lesson from Ronald Reagan, who, in the Iran-Contra testimony, did not exert executive privilege, did testify, did cooperate, gave his personal diaries over, and suffered the consequences of being interviewed.
There were written answers in that case, though, and I think the President Trump, that is going to be forced to sit down. Ken Cuccinelli, to this point, legally speaking, the president will likely lose here. He will lose. Ultimately, he will have to answer questions in some form to the special counsel. So to me, the interesting thing here is, why then is he willing to have this fight? He's going to lose it. What determination have his lawyers and political advisors made that this fight then is worth having?
Well, first of all, I think you've defined losing as him having to give answers, and
well, they've defined it. They've defined losing as him having to give answers because they're nervous he's going to lie.
No. I just don't agree with your characterization. I think that what you see going on is a negotiation. President Trump's lawyers, as his predecessors have, are using the fact that of his office to contain the scope of examination. Look, when I do depositions, I want to go 7 or 8 hours, and I'm going to save my best stuff for the end. And with a president of the United States, I don't think you're going to get a judge to give 7 hours, which would be sort of the rules of civil procedure time limit. That's not what applies here, of course, but it's a useful benchmark, and I just don't think they're going to get that. I do think that when they do sit down with him, it'll be very pointed questions, and it won't take that long to get to what they want to get to, so long as the president is answering.
Yeah, well, let's see, guys. We're actually out of time here, but let's see if this is the beginning of a negotiation or perhaps the beginning of what could be a long, drawn-out political fight that we will all watch. Ken Cuccinelli, Michael Zeldin, great to have you with us, guys. I appreciate it. Allison?
Thank you.
Okay, Super Bowl update. Earmuffs, John. The city of Philadelphia preparing for an epic Super Bowl parade. There will even be free beer. What could possibly go wrong? Details in the bleacher.
Philadelphia?
Yes, free beer for people who shows up.
In every challenge, there are two rivals. Belief and doubt.
The critics said we don't have what it takes.
Belief is outnumbered.
How can we perform this cyclization in one step?
But not outsmarted. And when the score is settled, belief rises to the top.
You did it!
Of that, we at Koch Industries have no doubt.
Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
We founded Harry's because we were tired of paying for overpriced razors.
So we designed our own razor. It's German engineered to give you a close, comfortable shave for around $2 a blade. I think you're supposed to say that.
Decide for yourself with a trial offer at harrys.com.
This is a great testimonial.
Hiring was always a huge challenge. Endless hours on job sites with not a lot to show for it. Then, I found ZipRecruiter. They figured out hiring. I post my job, they put it all over the web, and they send me the right people, because their technology is smart. ZipRecruiter often sends me the right person in 24 hours.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free today at ziprecruiter.com/smartest.
This is where life expresses itself as an endless flow of energy. Are you ready? Atlantis. Bahamas at heart.
Book by February 14th for the best winter rates at 1-800-Atlantis or AtlantisBahamas.com.
This is a last chance alert. It's happening. In just days, Publishers Clearinghouse will definitely award the $5,000 a week forever prize. Win, and you get $5,000 a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5,000 a week for their life. This prize must be awarded on February 23rd, so don't miss your final chance to win. Enter by mail or at pch.com before it's too late. Hurry, February 23rd, you could win $5,000 a week forever. Don't miss out.
Looking for vision care during retirement? Take a second look.
Ready, Daddy?
When it matters most.
Thank you, VSP.
VSP Individual Vision Plans offers vision coverage you can buy on your own. Because retirement means life's most important moments are yet to be seen. Go to vspdirect.com to see better for life for less.
Staying ahead isn't about waiting for a chance. It's about the one bold choice you make that moves you forward. The one and only Cadillac Escalade. Come in now for this exceptional offer on the Cadillac Escalade. Get this low-mileage lease on this 2018 Cadillac Escalade from around $879 per month. Visit your local Cadillac dealer.
It's time for the ultimate Sleep Number event on the only bed that adjusts on both sides to your ideal comfort. Your Sleep Number setting. And snoring? Does your bed do that? Right now, during the Ultimate Sleep Number event, save 50% on the Ultimate Limited Edition bed with adjustable comfort on both sides. And soon. Visit sleepnumber.com for a store near you.
Today's workplace is rapidly changing, and HR professionals must be at the top of their game. Nothing spells that more clearly than SHRM CP and SHRM SCP, the profession's premier competency-based certifications from SHRM. Ongoing training to help you build a thriving workplace and keep your HR career on the move. SHRM CP, SHRM SCP. Credentials that say,
I am ready because I am.
I am.
I am SHRM certified.
Learn more at shrm.org/SHRM certified.
The Philadelphia Eagles receiving a hero's welcome, and they deserved a hero's welcome as they went home with the franchise's first Super Bowl title. Andy Scholes has more in the Bleacher Report. Hey, Andy.
Yeah, good morning, John. You know, Eagles fans been waiting their whole lives to celebrate a Super Bowl title, and they are certainly making the most of it right now. Thousands of fans greeting the team at the airport yesterday as they arrived home with the Lombardi Trophy. Championship parade scheduled for Thursday through downtown Philly starting at around 11 a.m. It's going to end at the Art Museum on the famous Rocky Steps. School's canceled, so should be a huge crowd out there. Now, before the season, lineman Lane Johnson and Bud Light actually promised free beer for everyone if the team won the Super Bowl. And they're delivering. Bud Light sending out this decree saying everyone 21 or older along the parade route will get 1 free beer. All right, Dirk Nowitzki reaching the 50,000 career minute milestone last night. The Mavs lost to the Clippers. He's just the 6th player ever to play that many minutes in the NBA. But get this, his jersey was misspelled last night. The Z and the K should be flipped back right there. Amazingly, too, Dirk wore that jersey against the Kings on Saturday, and nobody noticed. But Allison, Dirk had some fun with it. He said, you know what? This sums up our season. The Mavs are one of the worst teams in the NBA right now.
All right, that's a good attitude. As someone who spells her name in an unusual way, I can relate to the misspellings. They happen.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, thank you very much. So more controversy involving President Trump's nominees. Wait until you hear what his choice for ambassador to the Caribbean islands believes. A closer look at the vetting problem in the White House next.
Bleacher Report Update is brought to you by TISO, official timekeeper of the NBA. Go to CNN.com/NBA for the latest coverage this season.
TISO, this is your time.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation?
I'm so sorry. This just is not
What we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana.com, the better way to buy a car.
Seeing is experiencing. Seeing is connecting. Seeing is discovering. So much of what they learn comes through their eyes. Yet 1 in 4 school-aged children have a vision problem. Their sight is a gift. Take care of it by visiting an eye doctor yearly. Find one today at thinkaboutyouryes.com.
When I received the diagnosis, I knew at that exact moment, I'm beating this. My main focus was to find a team of doctors.
It's not just picking a surgeon, it's picking the care team and feeling secure where you are.
Visit cancercenter.com/breast.
At Holiday Inn Express, we can't guarantee that you'll be able to contain yourself at our breakfast bar.
Or an egg white omelet. Sup, Lady Bacon?
Fruit. But we can guarantee that you'll get the best price when you book with us.
Holiday Inn Express. Be the readiest.
At Farmers, we've seen almost everything, so we know how to cover almost anything, even a red-hot mascot.
Hey, you're on fire! You bet I am. Dude, you're on fire. Oh, yeah. No, you're on fire. Look behind you. I'm cool.
That's one way to fire up the crowd, but we covered it. Talk to Farmers. We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
There are 7 continents, 7 seas, but at Celebrity Cruises, we'd argue more than 7 wonders. For a limited time, enjoy 2 free perks like complimentary Wi-Fi and drinks. Plus savings for everyone in your stateroom when you book now during the Celebrity Cruises Sail Beyond event.
When you visit a shopping center, bar, apartment complex, or hotel, you have every reason to believe you are safe in doing so. Unfortunately, we meet clients who later learn that this very business has been the place of criminal violence, such as shootings or robberies. More shocking is the fact that the business owner knew of the violence but did nothing to protect you, the consumer. Many times these business owners are responsible for your injuries. Call Morgan & Morgan for the people.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Closed captioning brought to you by Angie's Boom Chicka Pop Whole Grain Popcorn. Today is your day. Crush it.
Today is your day. Crush it. Angie's Boom Chicka Pop whole grain popcorn. Boom.
A CNN investigative report has found that President Trump's choice for ambassador of Barbados has spread crazy fringe conspiracy theories online. And he's not the first Trump nominee with questionable comments that have scuttled their confirmations. Joining us now to discuss are editor for the Weekly Standard, Bill Kristol, and CNN political commentator Ben Ferguson. Great to see both of you.
Morning.
Hi. I have to start with this guy. He was the Barbados ambassador nominee, Leandro Rizzuto Jr., and you and our viewers just have to hear these things that this guy is retweeting, okay? So here's a graphic, and I'll just put it up here. I know it's going to be very small, so I'm going to read it to people. Here's what he believes, since he's retweeting it, about Heidi Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz's wife. It says, this woman should scare the hell out of all Americans. She's an architect of the North American Union, whose goal is to destroy the sovereignty of the United States. If Ted were to become president, it virtually ensures the dissolving of the USA and the formation of the North American Union. This would put Heidi Cruz in line to become the first lady, not of the U.S., but of this other North American Union. Mitt Romney, he says, he retweets somebody who says, Satan has a hold of you. You will go to hell. For George Soros, he retweets that he is the leader of a movement who worked for Hitler, and he helped kill his own people, the Jews. Ben, let me start with you. How could this possibly be the president's choice for Barbados ambassador?
Yeah, look, you look at the things that he put out there on his own Twitter feed, and the bottom line is these are things that, in my opinion, should not have been tweeted, that should have never been retweeted or liked or anything associated with it. And I think you've got to do a better job of not just having someone come in and sit there and tell you what they think. Yeah. You got to look at everything they put in the past. And a lot of people, when they get a phone call, and we've seen this before, they go back and they do a scrub where it's hard to see what they actually wrote. A lot of this stuff, as you know, has been deleted, but it was found by other people and Google caches and other things. But you have to do a deep dive on people before you nominate them.
And why aren't they doing that?
Because, well, look, I don't know. I think clearly this is a moment where you have to say, okay, moving forward, we can't just trust somebody that we sit down with and assume that what they're saying now is consistent with what they may have said or tweeted in the past. Yeah. I think these statements are going to be a huge problem for him to get the nomination through, and they've got to make sure that before you put a guy's name out there, you got to check and see what they said in their own words.
Bill, listen, this isn't the first one that has had situations like this. I mean, we just had Kathleen Hartnett. She was nominated for the Council on Environmental Quality. She says global warming is a kind of paganism for secular elites. She believes that climate activists want an all-powerful one-world government and planetary management. Bill, what's going on with these nominees?
Well, there's a guy in this administration, Allison, you may not be aware of this, who used his Twitter feed to promote, not just to retweet, but to promote quite aggressively the notion that Barack Obama's birth certificate was a forgery. That was kind of a major theme of this guy's Twitter feed in 2011, 2012. I think he even did more than tweet about it, and he's president of the United States. So he probably doesn't have a terribly high standard of accuracy or responsibility for people's tweets.
So he's,
no, so
I hear
I'm
you.
not being flip. I mean, he's the president of the United States. Now, I will say this. Let me say two things.
Yep.
I know people who are ambassadors. I know people who obviously in other senior positions in this administration. Some of them are very good people who, some of them have their doubts about President Trump, but they're going in to serve the country. And so I don't, we shouldn't smear everyone who's getting a senior appointment in this administration.
Listen, Bill, I don't want to. But my question is, doesn't anybody know how to work Google there?
But
I think people around him should be checking this.
It's not a matter of working Google. I think they see things. Some of President Trump's aides and associates see things that many of us might think are shocking, and they think, well, this is just kind of, part of business. It's a little extreme, but what the heck? And they don't react in the way that a lot of people do, I think should react to some of these things that's outside the bounds. But again, this is a president who said yesterday that Democrats are treasonous and un-American. So it's a little hard to ask his administration to uphold higher standards.
Hey, Ben, this is an embarrassment. When these things are found, this is an embarrassment.
Sure.
That somebody that you would nominate to be an ambassador feels this way and retweets these disgusting things. And so what do you think is going on? Obviously, the president can't be responsible for going back and doing all the due diligence into somebody's background, but somebody should be. So what's going wrong in the White House?
Look, I think there's a couple of different things here. One, you have a lot of people that the president was close with early on in the campaign that were loyal to him, and when you see somebody that's loyal to him, he certainly likes him. I also think that there's a good chance that the things that you're talking about were things that would certainly never been brought up or self-reported when you're talking to an individual who's had a very good career. You look at, for example, Mrs. White. She was loved in Texas, did a lot of things in Texas with the environment, had a solid resume in Texas, and did great things for the
These were
economy
radio
in
interviews.
Texas.
She gave a radio interview in 2016 where she said this stuff. This isn't hidden. You don't have to dig too deep to find this stuff.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying. You have some people that are at the White House that have been there working with this president that weren't politically necessarily savvy, and that's one thing that a lot of people liked about him. They were new, fresh eyes coming in. But there's certain parts of politics that are extremely important. Optics is one of them, and they have to make sure that when you pick somebody to be a nominee for anything in the government, ambassadorship, you got to do an extremely deep dive and comb through this and say, basically, I'm going to find exactly what someone that hates this person is going to find. We have to make sure that this nomination can get through, can get confirmed, and if there aren't days like this where you're having to talk about a dumb tweet about Heidi Cruz saying that she thinks that there should be a 3-in-1 government with Canada and Mexico.
Hey, Bill, listen. The president talks a lot about extreme vetting, as you know, for refugees, but not for his nominees. And, I mean, it sounds like Ben is saying that this is sloppiness. What do you think?
I think Donald Trump can't. It's hard for Trump to insist on standards that he himself couldn't meet. He has some aides who will try to do so, but the Trump administration is about Trump.
Bill Kristol, Ben Ferguson, thank you both very much. Okay, thanks to our international viewers for watching. For you, CNN Newsroom is next. For our U.S. viewers, New Day continues right now.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to your new day. Chris is off. John Berman joins me. We have had a day of breaking news.
Indeed, we have. Good morning.
Good morning. We start there again. All eyes on Wall Street today. Trading will begin in about 2.5 hours. Investors are on edge after yesterday's largest single-day point drop for the Dow. Asian and European markets are rattled by the steep losses on Wall Street. U.S. markets have now erased this year's gains in just 2 days.
So we've been watching the numbers come in all morning, and signs point to an ugly open. One big question, how will the president handle this? For a year, he took credit for the markets nearly every day. He wanted to own the gains. Will he own the losses, especially if they continue today? Let's get right to our chief business correspondent, star of Early Start, Christine Romans, with a look at where the numbers are. Roman.
And it's a global sell-off, you guys. The stock market sell-off is not over. Look at Asia here. The plunge rippling around the world on Wall Street. Asian markets all closed lower. This is Europe. Europe has been worsening here, and Dow futures are swinging wildly. They're now down 356 points. They had been down as much as 700. Then they were higher. So there's no way to predict what's going to happen here at the opening bell when it rings. Let's look at what happened yesterday. The Dow lost more than 1,800 points over 2 days. Monday, brutal, shedding a record 1,175 points. That's 4.6%. It's the worst one-day point loss in history, you guys, but it's not even one of the top 20 percentage losses. That's really important to note. The Dow is now down here about 8.5% from its most recent high. 8.5%. That's just within what we call a market correction, about 10%. So what's going on here? A couple of things here. Most notably, the trigger, I think, was the Friday jobs report. Strong wage growth. Wage inflation is great for workers, but bad for corporate profits. And if inflation picks up too quickly, the Federal Reserve may need to raise interest rates faster than planned. And the biggest thing here to talk about is the bond yield. A sell-off in the bond market. Bond yields move opposite to price. They hit a 4-year high on Friday. As yields go up, bonds offer better returns, making them much more attractive to investors than risky stocks. So the bond market melt up here is what a lot of people are talking about. Now, even if stocks drop again today, I want to be real clear here. There's no, where my countdown's gone. There's no chance really here of a crash or a panic. Conditions are still good. The economy is strong. The job market is strong. Ironically, what you have here is a condition where Wall Street and Main Street are now a little bit disconnected.
It sure looks like
that. Right, so you've got things doing really well in the economy, but the stock market is worried about that overheating.
And so does the stock market then have a ripple effect on the economy where it could do something negative?
It could, but I think what's really most important to note here is that this market has been going up, up, up. You're still up 33% since the election. Now, a quarter of the Trump bump has been wiped away in the past couple of days, but you're still up 33% since the election. What I think people are coming to grips with here is that we're in a new era, an era of rising interest rates, not this era of artificially low interest rates kept low by the Fed. Now you're going to see interest rates start to rise, and you're going to see, Wall Street and Main Street reacting differently as it really should. Yesterday, I don't know how much to quantify the computers, because when you have a big move in the bond market, sometimes you have computer programs that trigger selling in the stock market. That could be happening here, too. There are also derivatives and derivatives of derivatives. We have people selling instruments against volatility and selling, shorting the stock market through different derivatives instruments. That's a play here as well.
It's very interesting. Over the last year, some of the stock market increase has been due to expectation of the tax cut that the president held pass, and the president took credit for that every day. But this drop is sort of a reaction to the tax cut as well. It's investors and companies seeing what is, I don't want to say negative effect, but an adverse effect or a side effect of the tax cut they're getting.
Stimulus from the tax cut that could filter into a very strong, maybe already overheating economy and cause the Fed to have to raise interest rates and cause trouble in the bond market.
We're all so young, all three of us, that we barely remember inflation at all. Right, periods of very high inflation. But inflation can be a concern, not just for companies, but across the board.
It's not high yet, though. I mean, we're coming from zero inflation, basically, to a little bit of inflation. So let's keep that in perspective. But it's been so long with no inflation and such low rates that it's been almost artificial for a very long time. Jerome Powell, the new Fed chief, started on the job yesterday. He's got a real tough job ahead of him here if this economy really does start to overheat.
Do you want to look at the Dow futures right now? Do you do it second by second? Are you monitoring these things?
I do look at them. 374 right now. S&P futures are down more than 1%. Look, percentage is really important here because in 1987, when we were all, in
diapers,
the percentage drop for the S&P was something like 22%.
Right.
A 4% move is a very big deal, no question. But we have gone up for so long, this is maybe getting back to some reality here. Another risk here, the president takes credit for the market so much. I want to see what his language is going to be like today. This is why presidents don't take credit for stock markets going up, because then you own it when they go down.
He'll find a way to take credit for something today. I think the question is what and how. We will see.
Thank you very much, Christine. All right, so now to our other top story. According to the New York Times, President Trump's lawyers want him to refuse an interview request from Robert Mueller's team. The Times reports that they are concerned that the president could get caught lying to investigators. This follows CNN reporting that the president's attorneys argue Mueller's team has not met the threshold for a face-to-face interview. CNN's Abby Phillip is live at the White House with more on this. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning, Allison. Well, the White House has confirmed this morning that Democratic memo is now in President Trump's hands. He now has 5 days to decide what he's going to do with it. Will he block it or redact it or perhaps release it as he did with the GOP memo? And all of this coming as we are also learning through new reports that the president and his legal team may not be on the same page about whether or not he should sit down with special counsel Robert Mueller. Lawyers for President Trump are urging him not to agree to an interview with special counsel Robert Mueller, partially out of concern that the president, who has a history of making false statements and contradicting himself, may incriminate himself with investigators, according to the New York Times. But Mr. Trump has insisted that he's eager to speak with Mueller.
There's been no collusion whatsoever. There's no obstruction whatsoever. And I'm looking forward to it. I have to say, subject to my lawyers and all of that, but I would love to do it.
CNN reported last week that Mr. Trump's attorneys are arguing that Mueller's team has not met the high threshold they believe is necessary to interview a president in person. The Russia probe hanging over the administration as the president decides whether or not to publicly release the Democratic memo unanimously approved by the House Intelligence Committee last night.
Do you support the release of the Democratic memo, President Trump?
The Democratic rebuttal challenges the accuracy of the declassified GOP memo crafted by committee chairman Devin Nunes that accuses the FBI of surveillance abuses.
We want to make sure that the White House does not redact our memo for political purposes, and obviously that's a deep concern.
The president attacking ranking member Democrat Adam Schiff ahead of Monday's vote, calling him one of the biggest liars and leakers in Washington, but praising Nunes as a great American hero. And during a speech in Ohio, Mr. Trump gloating about Nunes' memo, which he falsely claims vindicates him in the Russia investigation.
Oh, did we catch them in the act?
They are very embarrassed. They never thought they were going to get caught. We caught them. They're like the great sleuth.
Democrat Mike Quigley continuing to press Nunes about whether his staff coordinated with the White House in drafting the GOP memo.
I was the only member he wouldn't answer questions for. So besides having my feelings hurt, he didn't answer the question.
Nunes refusing to answer questions from CNN.
Did you vote to release the Democratic memo? No, the rules we don't talk about committee business.
Before again appearing on Fox News to tout his memo.
Political dirt was used by the FBI, and they knew it was political dirt, to open a counterintelligence investigation into the other campaign. That's what people, I just can't believe that people on the other side are not furious about this.
President Trump also raising eyebrows with this rebuke of Democrats for not applauding during his State of the Union speech.
They were like death and un-American. Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess why not? You know, can we call that treason? Why not? I mean, they certainly didn't seem to love our country very much.
Well, those remarkable comments coming at exactly the same time that President Trump actually needs Democratic votes to help him get a spending bill through Congress and also to deal with the immigration issue. Now, President Trump has a couple of immigration-related agenda items on his plate today. He's going to be hosting a law enforcement roundtable about the MS-13 gang, but also he's going to be signing a national security memorandum establishing new vetting procedures for immigrants and visitors coming into the United States. Allison and John.
Okay, Abby, thank you very much. Let's discuss it all with CNN political analyst David Gregory and CNN politics reporter and editor-at-large Chris Cillizza. Great to see both of you. So, David Gregory, the president's lawyers are understandably concerned that the president might be charged if he says something untruthful to investigators. So they are trying to keep him from talking to Mueller's team. What happens now?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it depends how hard Mueller's team pushes. The president is on record saying that he looks forward to speaking to him, to answering all of his questions. This is obviously a negotiation, as Ken Cuccinelli said in last hour, between the president's lawyers and between the special counsel's office. The president, meanwhile, is engaged with help from Republicans on Capitol Hill in working overtime to delegitimize this investigation and to try to poison the well here about anything that they might find or conclude. But, you know, I think we may very well see the president answering questions in the end. But I think his lawyers are right to be very worried about the potential to put him in legal jeopardy. And remember, so much of what we've seen in this investigation, outside of the underlying conduct that sparked it, was how much the president has brought on himself by firing Jim Comey, by overreacting to revelations, by going on the attack. He has really made this bigger than it ever was.
How do you think the president likes his executive time this morning if he's reading the papers and watching TV and seeing that his lawyers are afraid he'll get caught lying? His lawyers are fighting not to have him talk to special counsel Robert Mueller's team because they're afraid he will get caught lying. Chris Cillizza, it is just such an interesting place we're in this morning.
It's totally fascinating. Look, I think the lawyers are right, John. We've seen when he has been deposed in past, obviously not in this setting, but in past cases, he has been caught not telling the truth or be forced to acknowledge he had not told the truth or exaggerated significantly in the past. So if you are one of his lawyers, all you need to do is look at those past cases and say, this could get dicey, particularly given the stakes. But what do we know about the president? Does not like to be managed and certainly does not like to be told not to do something. It's a sure recipe to get him to do something. I think it's a question of how much power do his lawyers have over him. I think David is right. This is a negotiation. This is not a final decision on whether or not he will talk and in what form. But we know that this president does not react well when people who he sees as working solely for him do not do sort of the appropriate amount of praise of him.
Politically speaking, David, there was once a time where people might ask, oh, what is the president hiding if he refused that? But because he is so against this investigation, because he thinks that it's so tainted and has telegraphed that in a million different ways, he probably politically, I mean, at least with his supporters, obviously, can survive saying, I'm not going to take part in this.
I think so. I think it depends where we get and whether they are going to compel him to testify, whether they feel that they need him to, not to testify, but to answer questions. It wouldn't necessarily be under oath, of course. They could subpoena him at some point. I mean, we just don't know at this stage. But you have to make it very clear that the president has, I think, succeeded in what he has set out to do, to undermine this investigation, to attack it at all fronts, and to, with the benefit of some of his political allies, made the case that this is a garbage in, garbage out investigation, that you can't trust why they're investigating or what they'll conclude because there was original sin in how they began it. That is what the attack on the FBI and the Justice Department is about. But you do have to wonder why the president is acting this way. What does he have to hide that he'd fire Jim Comey, that he wants to undermine Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, that he was mad at the Attorney General for not protecting him more. These things start to add up, and the behavior, certainly in the mind of investigators and the special counsel, has to have them thinking, in addition to what they're actually finding through investigation, that something is amiss here.
Well, look, David and Allison, I think you bring up the key point here. It's fascinating to me that the White House thinks it has softened the ground enough that they can survive politically the president refusing to testify, or at least fighting over it. It shows they think that they're winning, to an extent, this political battle, at least with the people they need to. Chris Cillizza, which gets to the other political debate of the week, which is the Democratic memo in response to this Nunes memo alleging FBI abuses in the early stages of the Russia investigation. It's now on the president's desk. The president gets to decide, at least in the short term, if this goes public quickly. What kind of pressure do you think he faces here?
Okay, normal political standards, John, I think it's very difficult for him not to release the memo. We saw it voted out unanimously from the House Intelligence Committee, because if transparency is good for the goose, then transparency is theoretically good for the gander. But Donald Trump's calculation, we all knew Donald Trump was making the memo, the Nunes memo, public because it reinforced what he thinks. Right? He believes, and he has said this, he believes in a deep state conspiracy embedded within the FBI that has worked and continues to work to undermine him. The Democratic memo presumably does not do that, and so it is a test of, are you willing to do things that are not sort of directly supportive of your own personal belief system. Again, a normal politician would do this because he or she would understand that by not doing it, you look like a hypocrite. You look like you're the only you're only willing to listen to and release information that supports your point of view. I think he'll do it, but I just, again, I say this like 25 times a day, but predicting what Donald Trump is going to do based on the way in which politicians who have had offices like his before would do is just, it's not terribly instructive.
I think is the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
David, so we have Congressman Adam Schiff on, who obviously is spearheading this rebuttal.
And is actually pretty tall.
Yeah, I am going to ask him actually how tall he is when he's here. But in any event, we have him on because then if the president doesn't release this memo, then what? It could go to a full House vote. But the point is, we're in uncharted territory here.
We are, and Paul Ryan, the House Speaker, has said that the Democratic memo should be released. Maybe he'd be able to, as the full House could do, release the memo and let this debate continue in a way that's not completely one-sided. Look, the bigger issue here is the damage that's been done to the FBI. People I talk to who are inside and formerly with the FBI think that this has all set the FBI back by years to its reputation, to its effectiveness, and Americans have to live with that, with these attacks on the FBI, which is not perfect, and obviously there's things to get to the bottom of in terms of how the investigation was done. But there's something much bigger than there's the release of this memo that's at stake here.
All right, Chris, David, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Now that the Democratic rebuttal is on the president's desk, do Democrats think the president will let it go public? We will discuss with a key member of the House Intelligence Committee next.
How do you win at business? Stay at La Quinta, where we're changing with stylish makeovers. Then, at your next meeting, set your seat height to its maximum level. Bravo, tall meeting man. Start winning today. Book now at LQ.com.
Looking for a hotel that fits your budget? TripAdvisor now searches over 200 sites to find you the hotel you want at the lowest price. Grazie, Gino. Find a price that fits. TripAdvisor.
You take care of business. Let Office Depot Office Max take care of you. This week, all Office Depot brand paper is buy one, get one, 50% off. Plus, never run out with an Office Depot paper subscription. Subscribe today at OfficeDepot.com/subscriptions.
This is the story of Green Mountain Coffee Roasters Dark Magic, told in the time it takes to brew your cup. First, we head to Vermont and go to our coffee shop and meet Dave. Hey, why is Dark Magic so spellbindingly good, he asks? Let me show you. Let's go. So we climb, hike, see a bear. Whoa. Reach the top. Dave says Dark Magic is a bold blend of coffee with rich flavors of Uganda, Sumatra, Colombia, and other parts of South America. Like these mountains, each amazing on their own, but together, magical. All for a smoother tasting cup of coffee. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, packed with goodness.
You can't predict the market, but through good times and bad, at T. Rowe Price, we've helped our investors stay confident for over 80 years. Call us or your advisor. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
Introducing the brand new South Beach Diet. I'm Jesse James Decker, and if y'all want to know how I stay in shape, I do it with the South Beach Diet.
Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks. Order your 28-day plan today with fully prepared meals delivered to your door. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, even snacks.
I lost 38 pounds.
It's safe and healthy weight loss, easy to follow, and it works.
I lost 30 pounds on the South Beach Diet.
South Beach is a low-carb, low-sugar, high-protein program that burns fat and transforms your metabolism.
I lost 24 pounds.
Order your 28-day plan right now and receive a week of our all-new South Beach Complete Shakes free. They're packed with 20 grams of protein, no added sugar, a great source of probiotics, vitamins, and they taste great. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in free FedEx shipping. Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks.
Trust me, the South Beach Diet works. Call or click right now.
Call 888-870-SAND or go to southbeachdiet.com and get 1 week of shakes free.
You're a rich girl, and you're going too far, 'cause you know it don't matter anyway.
I'm a soldier in the People's Army.
The Radical Story of Patty Hearst premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Welcome to Kabuto Hibachi Sushi and Lounge. We're open 7 days a week. Happy hour specials every day from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Come for the food. Stay for the fun. Lunch specials Monday through Friday from 11:30 to 2:30. For a special occasion or any occasion. Kabuto Hibachi Sushi and Lounge. 2650 DeKalb Pike, East Norton, Pennsylvania. Call 484-322-4138.
All aboard, get on board. Already aboard, get on board. There's a train coming somewhere down the track.
Good luck in South Korea.
Thank you. The people bring it home. Driving like she stole it. This train.
Comcast is proud to bring the 2018 Winter Olympics home to all of us. Good luck, Team USA.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
President Trump now has 5 days to decide if he will declassify the Democratic rebuttal to the Republican memo. The House Intelligence Committee voted unanimously to make the Democratic memo public. Joining me now is Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut. He is on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. If you were a betting man, do you think the president will allow this memo to go public?
John, I'll tell you, I've never seen this president participate in an effort that did anything other than make him look good. So, you've got, as you pointed out, Speaker Ryan saying it should be out there. But I guess I would bet against the White House saying what it said with the Republican memo, which was 100% it's going out. I think we're going to see some noise. I think we're going to see some obstacles.
Does this memo make him look bad? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, he'll perceive it that way because this memo, of course, is a point-by-point refutation of the Republican memo. I would point out, John, though, that what is happening here is really not who wins the argument of fact. In some ways, it doesn't really matter all that much whether the Democratic memo gets out or not. The truth is that every lawyer out there who's not 4 whiskeys into cocktail hour looked at the Nunes memo, considered this, and this is not just lawyers, this is national security people, and said there's absolutely nothing there. However, it served its purpose because now there's a meaningful percentage, it's not a huge percentage, but there's a meaningful percentage of the American people running around saying, gosh, that FBI, I'm not sure they're on the up and up. Gosh, this president, there's some question about, whether there was some political bias in the investigation. Facts aren't going to change that. And it's a terrible, terrible thing because there was a time when people stood up for facts and what was true.
So you say there is nothing there. What the Republican authors of the memo, and I've heard Devin Nunes speak on this now extensively on other networks, he says what the memo shows is that the Steele dossier, there were political motivations behind it, and the FISA court was not told. The FISA court was not told that the Steele dossier was funded with Democratic National Committee money and Clinton campaign money. Is that, in a vacuum, an isolated issue here, is that true, that the FISA courts were not told that?
I don't believe the FISA judge was told that it was paid for with Clinton money. The FISA judge, and I got to be a little careful here because it hasn't yet been declassified, but when the memo comes out, there will be no doubt that the judge understood that this had come out of a politically biased and politically adverse individual. And remember, the question is not whether the source is biased. Right. John, there are sources and there are informants all over every single day. Not a single one of them is unbiased. It is the job of the judge to determine whether the bias that the informant or the source brings to a particular process has in any way affected the veracity, the trueness of what is being offered to the judge. That's getting lost here. What matters is not the underlying bias. There are no people out there who are not biased in one way or another. What matters is what was said and shown to the judge. Was it true?
You're making the legal argument here, which if you look at the case law, is true. This deals with informants. I mean, Christopher Steele in this case is really an informant, and the judge has to determine the reliability of the informant. And in many cases, informants are paid. And the issue is, would the judge care about who the informant was paid by? There is a difference, I will say, in the minds of some between saying he was politically motivated and motivated by money from the Clinton campaign. Again, that may be a political argument, not a legal argument. If I can move on to other subjects, though, we are hearing overnight from the New York Times that the president's lawyers are suggesting that he will not testify. He will not speak to Robert Mueller's investigators. Last week, CNN reported that they felt they hadn't met the standard to have the president sit down and talk to them. What do you make of it?
Well, look, let's clear aside, again, all the political BS around this. If I were the president's lawyer, I would be horrified by the prospect that this undisciplined, say what I want in the moment, don't be honest every other sentence I say. I would be horrified by the prospect of putting Donald Trump in front of an experienced questioner, in front of an experienced prosecutor. So that's what's happening. What's puzzling to me, John, is two things. Number one, this is going to set up a serious maybe constitutional crisis is too strong a word, but remember, every other past president that has been asked to testify in front of an investigation has. So this raises a huge issue. Secondly, my God, this is a man who from moment one has said this is all a big hoax. There's nothing there. The Democrats are making this up. Mr. President, if that is true, there is absolutely no risk to you sitting with Mueller's investigation and telling the truth.
All right. I want to move on to one last point here, and this isn't so much having anything to do with the investigation. It does have to do with the president's words and an accusation he made against you and your fellow Democrats for how you behaved during the State of the Union address. This came during a speech he gave in Ohio yesterday. Let's listen to the president.
Even on positive news, really positive news like that, they were like death and un-American. Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess why not? You know, can we call that treason? Why not? I mean, they certainly didn't seem to love our country very much.
So the President of the United States called Democratic members of Congress treasonous, un-American, and suggested you don't love the country very much.
You know, John, it's yet the latest installment of this president taking our democracy and our country into the gutter. There are Nicaraguan dictators, there are Asian dictators who would be embarrassed to call their political opponents because they happen to disagree politically treasonous or un-American. It's quite frankly pathetic. Now, John, I also need to note, this is a long tradition, and lots of Democrats applauded at lots of things, but 8 years ago, my very first speech with a brand new President Obama, a Republican stood up and shouted, "You lie." I would suggest that standing up and shouting, "You lie," is a little bit less dignified, a little less thoughtful than people not applauding for things that they disagree with. But the larger point here, John, is that this president, and in that moment, dragged this country deep into the mud of autocracy and dictatorship, as opposed to the kind of democracy that whether you watch Fox News or Rachel Maddow, you ought to aspire this country to have.
Congressman Jim Himes, we watch New Day. We appreciate you being with us. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, John.
Okay, as we've been discussing, Republicans wanted the Nunes memo released. Do they feel the same way about the Democratic rebuttal? We asked Republican Congressman Chris Collins. That and more next.
I tried hard to quit smoking. But when we brought our daughter home, that was it. Now I have Nicoderm CQ.
The Nicoderm CQ patch with unique extended release technology helps prevent your urge to smoke all day.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Every great why needs a great how.
I chose Medi Weight Loss because it's medically supervised, clinically proven, and they created a plan just for me.
I went from a size 20 to a size 8.
Medi Weight Loss kept me motivated. I lost over 70 pounds.
60 pounds, I'm 55 and fabulous.
The Medi Weight Loss products and supplements helped me stay on track, and I lost 60 pounds.
You can lose up to 10 pounds the first week. Visit startmedi.com to shop online and find a location near you.
Arthritis, my back pain.
It hurts all over.
Wherever you feel pain, it can be managed from here with Quell. From this optimal point, the revolutionary Quell technology accesses the central nervous system. It sends precise neural pulses to the brain that trigger your body's own natural pain blockers. Quell is 100% drug-free, FDA-cleared, and easy to use. And for 4 out of 5 people, it works. Reclaim your life from chronic pain with Quell. Go to getquell.com to order now.
This is where life expresses itself as an endless flow of energy. Are you ready? Atlantis. Bahamas at heart.
Book by February 14th for the best winter rates at 1-800-Atlantis or AtlantisBahamas.com.
Ways to lose stubborn belly fat. The roasted core wrap. 3, 2, 1. Not cool. Freezing away fat cells with Cool Sculpting. Now that's cool. Cool Sculpting safely freezes and removes fat cells with little or no downtime and no surgery. Results and patient experience may vary. Some rare side effects include temporary numbness, discomfort, and swelling. Ask your doctor if Cool Sculpting is right for you and visit CoolSculpting.com today for your chance to win a free treatment.
Just because you're cooking at home doesn't mean you can't travel the globe. Plated is the meal kit for people who love food, and our flexible plans fit every table and schedule. Our diverse menus include 20 globally inspired, chef-designed recipes and 2 delicious desserts every week. Get everything you need to make amazing dinners delivered in one completely customized box. From pre-portioned high-quality ingredients to easy-to-follow recipe cards. Get 25% off your first 4 orders at plated.com/25x4.
A businessman consumed with power. A family obsessed with winning. And a dynasty destined for the presidency.
The Kennedys premieres Sunday, March 11th at 9 on CNN.
Severe winter weather can strike anytime. Follow these tips to keep yourself safe while driving this winter. Number 1, before driving, clear your car of ice and snow for best visibility. Number 2, don't rush. Keep a safe distance from the car in front of you. And number 3, always wear your seatbelt. This winter driving tip is brought to you by Jeep. Jeep brand vehicles deliver more fun and freedom with their legendary capability. Drive one today at your local Jeep dealer or visit Jeep.com to learn more.
If ever you needed a definition of man's best friend, it's right here at Villalobos. Getting her off the street was just the beginning.
I always wanted to be part of something besides a gang.
There is a lot more work to do out here.
Pitbulls and Parolees, all new Saturdays at 9 on Animal Planet.
This program is brought to you locally by
Millie's Furniture, just what you're looking for.
The Radical Story of Patty Hearst premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
The White House says President Trump will review a classified memo from Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee. That committee, as you may know, voted unanimously to make their rebuttal to the Nunes memo public. So with 5 days to decide, what do Republicans think the president should do? Joining us now to answer this and so much more, we have Republican Congressman Chris Collins of New York. Good morning, Congressman.
Yeah, it's always good to be with you, Allison.
Great to have you. So should the president authorize the release of the Democratic rebuttal?
Oh, absolutely. And I was very happy to see that was a unanimous vote. Certainly not the case when the vote was taken to release the Republican memo. But we're all about transparency. We can have disagreements on some of the minutia, if you will, that may come out. And my guess is that after the Democrat rebuttal is released, and I'm confident it will be, you'll probably see a Republican rebuttal to the rebuttal.
Oh, fun. That'll be great. That will be great fun. But why do we need a rebuttal to the rebuttal if, as the president says, the Nunes memo vindicates him?
Well, I think it comes down, Allison, when you look at the request for the FISA warrant, and you look at comments that McCabe made that said without using the Steele dossier paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democrat National Committee, that they would not have been able to get the warrant.
If you believe those comments. I mean,
yes,
the rebuttal,
correct.
as you know, Democrats on the committee say that is a misrepresentation of
there
what
you go.
Andrew McCabe said. And so do you believe that Andrew McCabe's testimony behind closed doors is the thing that should be made public so that we can read it with our own eyes?
Well, I mean, there's the issue of what's confidential information. I mean, this is the Intelligence Committee, and I will trust the folks both on the committee and at the White House just to make sure that we're not releasing any information that would help our enemies in any way. And so, but you know, that's what you brought up is exactly the conversation we're having.
Yeah.
And I think America needs. In a transparent way to put the issues out. We can all make our own decisions.
Yes, as a journalist, I would love to be able to read that. Okay, next. Should the president sit down for an interview with Robert Mueller?
Well, in this case, I would say we should rely on his attorneys, and it sounds like they're suggesting he should not. And one thing when you're involved in litigation, you're paying your attorneys to give you the right advice.
Yeah, but just to be clear, it sounds like, from the New York Times reporting, that they're suggesting that he not do so because they are worried that he would say something misleading and be charged with lying.
Well, in this case, Allison, where the issue is not really collusion. I mean, I think most people have said there was no collusion. Now you're into the nuances of what is obstruction of justice. Is there an allegation in that way? Is that where this investigation is headed?
No, but before,
nuanced.
Before that, just lying to investigators. I mean, do you think that could be a problem for the president? Sometimes, as you know, he says things that are fact challenged.
Well, again, I would listen to his attorneys. I'm not going to comment one way or the other, and certainly not going to tell the president what he should do. It would appear right now that they're negotiating perhaps to have the questions done in writing. And what would be wrong with that? So, I mean, there's ways to get this out short of somebody sitting down, and I've sat down with attorneys in the past, and they can tie you all up in knots and push you every which way you can, and at the end they'll say, oops, you said it this way, or you said it that way.
Yeah. Is not clapping for a president at the State of the Union treasonous?
Well, no, I wouldn't use the word treasonous, but boy, was it embarrassing. And, when Gutierrez stood up, when the president said, we should stand and respect our flag, the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, and those of us Republicans stood and cheered and started shouting, USA, USA, and Gutierrez storms out of the chamber. I think that says it all when it comes to the Democrat response. They were stoic, sitting on their hands. They did not want to applaud at any turn, other than Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin was applauding every which way, right with the Republicans, and we all know why. It was just a very partisan reaction, and I've sat through some of former President Obama's states, and we were reserved, but I don't think quite to the extent that we saw.
All right, I mean, let's just take a look at it. So here's how the Republicans reacted when the president Obama had his addresses in State of the Union. Let's look at a little B-roll of this. I believe you have a monitor to look at this. So maybe we can play this for everybody.
Give small businesses the credit they need to stay afloat. Each of these proposals deserves a vote in Congress. Let a bipartisan group do it.
So, Congressman, why wasn't that embarrassing, where you see John Boehner's stone face there? And you see the Republicans not applauding for the economy?
Well, again, it's degrees. As I had already acknowledged, we did not overreact or we did not stand and cheer with Obama any more than they did. And I guess it's degrees of it. I just said I believe the Democrat response was more subdued than ours with Obama.
It's hard to know how not applauding. In both cases, one can be more subdued than the other. But, of course, there's this moment also with Joe Wilson. Let's remind you of this moment. Watch this.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. It's not true.
That wasn't very subdued, Congressman.
No, and in fact, you might get a chuckle. I suggested to Joe Wilson during President Trump's address that he should stand up and shout, "Now that's the truth." Congressman,
that's a funny line. But you seem to be ignoring the point, which is that was incredibly disrespectful. Why aren't you focused? Why are you more focused on Democrats not applauding?
Well, no, that was disrespectful, and I'd say it was an emotional response, much like Gutierrez storming out of the chamber. It is what it is. It was for the moment in time where Joe Wilson was reacting to something he thought was not truthful, and Gutierrez was reacting to the president saying we should respect our flag.
Hold on. You think that yelling "you lie" at the president of the United States is the same as walking out of a room?
Oh, I think walking out of the room when the crowd is chanting USA, USA, and you're an elected member of Congress is very disrespectful to the chamber. It's disrespectful up and down. And in the case of Joe Wilson, something just hit him that he was not hearing, and it was an emotional response.
I see. So Joe Wilson's was an emotional response, but not Luis Gutierrez. Okay. Thank you for your opinion on this, Congressman Chris Collins.
Okay, Allison.
John.
All right. President Trump has no problem taking credit when the markets soar, so will he own it when it goes down? Steep losses over the last few days. We'll speak to the president's former economic advisor next.
I'm certain cold-blooded killers walk among us. These acts are so wretched, so evil. I must follow this wherever it goes.
The Alienist, all new Mondays at 9 on TNT.
At Massage Envy, we're committed to being the best we can be. It's required that we're carefully selected and thoroughly trained, so you can be confident in us, and we're confident you'll be at your very best.
Now get a free session when you join Massage Envy.
Going somewhere? Here's some advice. TripAdvisor now searches more than 200 booking sites to find the hotel you want and save you up to 30%. Trust this bird's words. TripAdvisor.
If you just sign that first
I'm
one
so
there.
sorry. I don't feel comfortable signing that.
I don't get the math here.
Was this the same car we talked about?
What's this dealer preparation fee?
I'm so sorry. This just is not.
What we talked about.
Get the car without the car salesman. Carvana.com, the better way to buy a car.
You take care of business. Let Office Depot Office Max take care of you. This week, all Office Depot brand paper is buy one, get one, 50% off. Plus, never run out with an Office Depot paper subscription. Subscribe today at OfficeDepot.com/subscriptions.
No matter how the markets change, at T. Rowe Price, our disciplined approach remains.
Global markets may be uncertain, but you can feel confident in our investment experience around the world. Call us or your advisor. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
This is the story of Green Mountain Coffee Roasters Dark Magic, told in the time it takes to brew your cup. First, we head to Vermont and go to our coffee shop and meet Dave.
Hey.
Why is Dark Magic so spellbindingly good, he asks? Let me show you.
Let's go.
So we climb, hike, see a bear. Whoa. Reach the top. Dave says Dark Magic is a bold blend of coffee with rich flavors of Uganda, Sumatra, Colombia, and other parts of South America. Like these mountains, each amazing on their own, but together, magical. All for a smoother tasting cup of coffee. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, packed with goodness.
You're a rich girl, and you're going too far, 'cause you know it don't matter anyway.
I'm a soldier in the People's Army.
The Radical Story of Patty Hearst premieres Sunday at 9 on CNN.
Where were you when many sounded as one? When the greatest stood tall? Where were you when we relived a miracle? Where will you be when the whole world comes together? The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics. Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on NBC.
Team USA snowboarder Jamie Anderson saves it all for the slopes. Off the slope, she keeps saving with Xfinity Mobile.
Best cake ever.
It's a new kind of network that's included with her internet. She can get up to 5 lines of unlimited nationwide talk and text at no extra cost. So all she pays for is data.
Oh, yeah.
Because the only thing Jamie loves more than baking is saving money. Oh, yeah, and snowboarding. Choose by the gig or go unlimited. Xfinity Mobile, a new kind of network designed to save you money. Call, visit, or go to xfinitymobile.com today.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
All right, we are less than 2 hours away from the opening bell. Right now, Dow futures are down about 200 points ahead of the open. The stock market's dramatic fall over the past week comes after unprecedented gains, and President Trump has not been shy about taking credit for those soaring numbers.
The stock market has smashed one record after another, gaining $8 trillion and more in value in just this short period of time. The United States is doing fantastically well, better than we've done in decades. The stock markets are incredible. And you're seeing what's happening with the stock market. People are appreciating what we're doing. The stock market is way up again today, and we're setting a record literally all the time. And I'm telling you, we have a long way to go.
All right, let's discuss all of this and what's happening today with CNN senior economics analyst and former senior economic advisor to the Trump campaign, Stephen Moore, and CNN chief business correspondent, Christine Roman. It's great to have both of you here standing by on set at this volatility. Are you nervous?
I am nervous. I mean, what the futures are down another
The futures down another few hundred points. If you look at the implied open, it could be several hundred points on the Dow if this negativity holds.
Okay, so Stephen, listen, if the president is going to take credit when there's a boom, does he need to take responsibility when there are these losses?
Yeah, but look, I mean, the Dow was up 7,000 points, and so it's given back, 1,500 to 2,000. We're still way ahead of the game. I mean, my one piece of advice just for investors out there, people with 401k plans, is people tend to make the mistake of selling when the market is falling, and you don't want to do that. I mean, if you're in for retirement purposes, don't sell now because in fact, I think I kind of agree with you, Christine. At some point, this is going to bottom out. Yeah. And when it does, I think the market will go on its way. So don't sell in a down market.
There's an old phrase on Wall Street, if something, don't just, stand there, do something. Don't just do something, stand there, because you're going to make a mistake in your own retirement right now. And Stephen's actually right. Since the election, the Dow's up 33%. Now, it's lost all of the gains for the year, and it's lost a quarter of the Trump rally. But you have to put it all in perspective here. There's a lot going on, too. There's things called program trades, the computers. When you have a big move in the bond market, which is what we've seen, sometimes you have selling in stocks that's tied to that has to do with computer programs.
But what about my question to Stephen, which is that if he's going to take credit for the boom in the stock market, which the president has time and again since becoming president, I mean, he thinks that it sounds like that the changes that he's made have contributed to the stock market going up, that there is a feeling of consumer confidence, and that there is good news coming down the pipeline. And so he does take credit for what's happened in the stock market. So should he now take responsibility for today?
I think you've already seen the White House changing the messaging. Sarah Huckabee Sanders yesterday talked about the long-term fundamentals of a strong American economy. That's what you should say when you're talking about the stock market from White House perspective. That's what they should be talking about. You heard the ebb and flow. The vice president talked about the ebb and flow of markets, and that's what they should be talking about. It's very dangerous to cheerlead a market, because when it turns, you have to own it, and that's a problem.
But here's the thing. I mean, this is a strange market correction in the sense that, if you look at the fundamentals of the economy, if you look at the jobs report, if you look at the wage report that came out on Friday, the highest wage increases that we've had in 10 years, the Wall Street Journal headline yesterday was that 80% of companies had higher earnings than expected. I mean, you would think that if earnings are higher than expected, that stocks would go up. So I think what's going on here is a lot of your friends on Wall Street get spooked every time there's good news, because they think that there's going to be, an inflationary effect from all of this economic activity. Pardon?
Won't there be an inflationary effect?
Well, I don't see it out there. I mean, look, it is true that energy prices have risen a bit over the last month or two, but you talk to companies, they don't have a lot of pricing power. And my big thing is prosperity does not cause inflation. More people working does not cause inflation.
But one last thing, Stephen, I just want to get, because we've heard Christine on this. Do you think that the tax cuts that have gone into effect, do you think that that is in some way connected to this?
Oh, I think the tax cuts have been a spectacular success in every way. I mean, you've had, over hundreds of companies.
But we've also heard that you don't stimulate a hot economy, and that's part of what this correction
No. I mean, look, this is about expanding investment, expanding hiring, and so on. I mean, I never believe in this idea of an overheating economy. We've had rates of growth, in the past of 5-6%.
Okay. The era of low interest rates are over. Artificially low interest rates held down by the Fed. You're going to see interest rates start to rise. That's what the bond market is telling you right now. Inflation. What is inflation? Most Americans don't even know what it is, because we haven't had any for so long. That's
tell us, why is inflation?
Look, even on your point about interest rates, look, I agree that they're going up, but they're still. I mean, I lived through the 1970s when we had 14, 15% interest rate. We're talking about interest rates that might go to maybe 3 or 3.5%, 4% at the worst. I mean, those are still pretty historically low.
But why is inflation dangerous?
Well, inflation, when you start, wage inflation in particular is what people are worried about. We had a number on Friday that's 2.9% year-over-year wage growth. We have not seen that since 2009, and that starts to eat into corporate profits, and that starts to feed into this whole concern about the economy starting to overheat. Am I right? So that's what they're worried about. They're worried about the wage part of it.
But look, we want higher wages, right? I mean, this has been the problem with the U.S. economy for the last 20 years. Now we get some wage increases, and Wall Street panics. I mean, I'm with the workers. I want workers to make more money.
I think what you're seeing for the first time in a long time is Wall Street and Main Street separating a little bit. The economy is doing well, and that's good. But the Wall Street is not the economy sometimes, right? And so that's what we're seeing here.
Okay, Christine, Stephen, thank you both very much. Stand by.
Don't sell.
We'll check. Okay, got it. Got that message. All right, John.
All right, thanks, Allison. Police say the suspected drunk driver in a crash that killed an Indianapolis Colts player. The driver was an undocumented immigrant. What we know about his past next.
Why create something this extravagant? Or make a back seat that feels nothing like a back seat? Why give it every feature you could want, along with a few you didn't know you needed? It's simple. You can build a car, or you can build a Cadillac. Come in now for this exceptional offer on the Cadillac CT6. Get this low-mileage lease on this 2018 Cadillac CT6 from around $549 per month. Visit your local Cadillac dealer.
Introducing the brand new South Beach Diet. I'm Jesse James Decker, and if y'all want to know how I stay in shape, I do it with the South Beach Diet.
Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks. Order your 28-day plan today with fully prepared meals delivered to your door. Breakfast, lunches, dinners, even snacks.
I lost 38 pounds.
It's safe and healthy weight loss, easy to follow, and it works.
I lost 30 pounds on the South Beach Diet.
South Beach is a low-carb, low-sugar, high-protein program that burns fat and transforms your metabolism.
I lost 24 pounds.
Order your 28-day plan right now and receive a week of our all-new South Beach Complete Shakes free. They're packed with 20 grams of protein, no added sugar, a great source of probiotics, vitamins, and they taste great. Call or go online in the next 2 minutes and we'll even throw in free FedEx shipping. Lose up to 9 pounds and 3 inches overall in your first 2 weeks.
Trust me, the South Beach Diet works. Call or click right now.
Call 888-870-SAND or go to southbeachdiet.com and get 1 week of shakes free.
I chose Medi Weight Loss because it's medically supervised, clinically proven, and they created a plan just for me.
I went from a size 20 to a size 8.
Medi Weight Loss kept me motivated. I lost over 70 pounds.
Designed recipes and 2 delicious desserts every week. Get everything you need to make amazing dinners delivered in one completely customized box. From pre-portioned high-quality ingredients to easy-to-follow recipe cards. Get 25% off your first 4 orders at plated.com/25.
Volatile markets, something we all think about as we head into retirement. It's why Bright House Financial is committed to help protect what you've earned and ensure it lasts. Introducing Shield Annuities, a line of products that allow you to take advantage of growth opportunities while maintaining a level of protection in down markets, so you can head into retirement with confidence. Talk with your advisor about Shield Annuities from Bright House Financial, established by MetLife.
Today's workplace is rapidly changing, and HR professionals must be at the top of their game. Nothing spells that more clearly than SHRM CP and SHRM SCP, the profession's premier competency-based certifications from SHRM. Ongoing training to help you build a thriving workplace and keep your HR career on the move. SHRM CP, SHRM SCP. Credentials that say,
I am ready.
Because I am.
I am.
I am SHRM certified.
Learn more at shrm.org/SHRM certified.
In just days, Publishers Clearinghouse awards the $5,000 a week forever prize. Win $5,000 a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5,000 a week for their life. Don't miss your final chance to win. Enter at PCH.com and February 23rd. Win forever.
At Safe Flight Auto Glass, we know that when you're spending time with the grandkids, every minute counts. And you don't have time for a cracked windshield. That's why we show you exactly when we'll be there, saving you time so you can keep saving the world.
Police say the suspect in a drunk driving crash that killed 2 people, including Indianapolis Colts linebacker Edwin Jackson, is an undocumented immigrant who has been deported twice. CNN's Athena Jones live in Indianapolis with the latest. Athena, what are you learning?
Good morning, John. We're talking about Manuel Ortega Zavala. He's a 37-year-old Guatemalan national who could have his first court appearance as soon as today. He's facing a number of counts, including driving while intoxicated and causing death when driving while intoxicated. Police say that in the early hours of Sunday morning, Ortega Zavala drove his pickup truck onto the emergency shoulder of Interstate 70 near here, striking Edwin Jackson and his Uber driver, Jeffrey Monroe. Now, Zavala had been using an alias, and according to immigration authorities, he first entered the U.S. illegally in 2004. We're also learning that in 2005, he was convicted of drunk driving in California and that he had been deported twice, once in 2007 and again in 2009. I should mention that ICE has a detainer. Immigration authorities have a detainer on Zavala. This is why, though, the fact that he had been twice deported, that amidst the outpouring of grief we're seeing from those who knew and loved Edwin Jackson, his team saying he was well respected and loved by all, admired for his outgoing personality and competitive spirit. Amidst that outpouring of grief, we're also seeing some anger being expressed, including by Vice President Mike Pence, who was, of course, the governor of Indiana. He tweeted that this was a senseless and avoidable tragedy. This is a great loss for the entire Indiana community. We also heard from another Republican congressman here, Todd Rokita, who says that the death of Jackson and this Uber driver should make all Americans angry because it was caused allegedly by a twice deported undocumented immigrant. Allison?
Oh, it does make everyone angry and sad. I mean, what a tragedy. Athena, thank you very much. So, other headline for you. 1 deputy is killed and 3 other law enforcement officers are injured in a Colorado Springs shooting. Police say the incident began as an investigation into a car theft and quickly turned into a chase with shots fired. Police say the suspect was killed. The fallen deputy, Micah Flick, was celebrating his 11-year anniversary with the force. He is the 3rd law enforcement officer to be killed in Colorado since December 31st. Deputy Flick is survived by his wife and 7-year-old twins.
That's awful. The Supreme Court rejecting a request from Pennsylvania Republicans to block a lower court ruling, actually a state court ruling, ordering the state's congressional maps to be redrawn. The state Supreme Court earlier ruled that Republicans illegally pursued a partisan advantage over Democrats in drawing the maps. Republicans hold 12 of Pennsylvania's 18 seats. Republican leaders say they may try to take further legal action, although it's unclear what that would be.
Sad news from Hollywood. Veteran actor John Mahoney has died. He's best known for playing the curmudgeonly but sharp-witted father in the TV series Frasier.
I accidentally stain your carpet, and you set fire to the one thing in this apartment I care about and heave it out into the street. I'll tell you what, the healthiest thing you can do right now. Want to know the healthiest thing you can do? Shut my yap. Bingo!
Mahoney starred on stage and screen for more than 35 years. His publicist says he died Sunday after a short illness. John Mahoney was 77. He was so likable. I mean, even curmudgeonly, he's just such a likable actor.
He was a terrific actor. I was just reading, he didn't really start acting till he was over 30. Remember Say Anything? I know you love Say Anything because, you know, the whole music of
John.
It was your dream. But he was the father in Say Anything, and he was so good at that.
Was he in Juno?
I don't think so. But had he been, he would have been phenomenal.
Fantastic.
He would have just carried that film completely.
I know I like him. That's all I know.
Great actor.
Thank you.
Not in Juno.
No?
No.
We're following a lot of news this morning. Let's get right to it.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to your new day. It is Tuesday, February 6th, 8 o'clock in the East. Chris is off. John Berman joins me. It's a real knuckle-biter for investors.
Good to be here.
Okay, 90 minutes till the opening bell. Investors bracing for another wild day on Wall Street. All of the gains from 2018 wiped out by this record-setting 1,175-point plunge on Monday.
So how will the president handle all this, especially if there is an ugly open this morning? The president's been taking credit for market gains whenever he can. So will he take credit or try to own these losses? Don't count on it. Chief Business Correspondent Christine Romans live with the latest look at the futures. Ooh, I see a lot of down hours there.
It's just not good. It looks like that sell-off, that market sell-off is not over yet. Here's what the markets look like around the world right now. And Wall Street's plunge is spreading around the globe. Asia markets closed sharply lower. Europe all lower here and actually worsening Paris and Frankfurt. And Dow futures are swinging wildly. Depending on when you take a snapshot of Dow futures, you could be talking about 300 to 500 points lower at the opening bell. They were down as much as 700 points overnight. Here's what happened yesterday. The Dow lost more than 1,800 points over the past couple of days. Monday, brutal, shedding that record 1,175 points. It's about 4.6%. Context is so important. It's the worst one-day point loss ever. But it's not even one of the top 20 percentage losses. So that's important to note. Let's talk about the Dow stocks. All of them, look at that, all of them just got hammered yesterday. It doesn't matter what you sell or what you make. It got hammered yesterday, and it looks like it's going to be like that again this morning. So how bad is this? The Dow is now down about 8.5% from its most recent high. That's just within reach of a market correction. If you see as bad as it looks for this morning, you will have hit a 10% technical correction. So what's going on here? A couple of things here. The trigger was actually the jobs report Friday. Strong wage growth in particular, 2.9%. Wage inflation is good for workers, but bad for corporate profits. And if inflation picks up too fast, the Federal Reserve may need to raise interest rates faster than planned. And we're seeing a lot of these fears play out in the bond market. The biggest concern here, the sell-off in bonds. Bond yields move opposite to the price, and they hit a 4-year high on Friday. As yields go up, bonds offer better returns, making them much more attractive to investors than risky stocks. Even if you get this big sell-off, I think could happen at the open, a few hundred points even, there's no chance of a crash or a panic here. The conditions are still good. The economy is strong. Guys, the job market is strong. Corporate earnings are expected to be very, very good. So you've got this disconnect. The economy is doing well. What the stock market is reflecting right now are concerns about inflation coming back, bond yields rising. Inflation, people are like, what is inflation? We haven't seen it in so long. The Fed has kept interest rates so low. You know, wages haven't gone up. Prices haven't gone up. There has been, to speak of, very little inflation in the economy.
Inflation cuts into corporate profits,
Yes.
which is ultimately why you see stock prices go down. Inflation makes things harder for businesses ultimately. And if it gets bad, it hurts consumers as well. Home prices go up, consumer goods go up, and your money doesn't go as far.
Exactly.
And that's a concern long term, maybe.
And we haven't had any kind of inflation to speak of in the economy, and a little bit of inflation should be a good thing, right? But the stock market has gone up so far for so long without a meaningful correction. This, to me, looks like this is that correction. You know, on Wall Street, the pros call it the pause that refreshes. You know, you want to have the market go down sometimes, not just go up all the time. There's also some technical selling here, I think. When you look at just how erratic things were in the afternoon, you have computers that have, you know, complicated models when the bonds do this. They sell stocks here. So there's some of that happening. These aren't mom and pop investors who are playing here, by the way. These are the professionals and the computers that have been selling stocks sharply.
This is refreshing. Thank you very much for that refreshing report, Christine. Stand by. We'll need you throughout the hour. All right. So President Trump has 5 days to decide if the Democratic rebuttal to the GOP memo about the alleged FBI surveillance abuses should become public. The House Intelligence Committee voting unanimously to release that rebuttal. So what happens now? Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff. He's the ranking member of the House Intel Committee who drafted the rebuttal memo. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. What if the president decides not to release your rebuttal?
I think that's going to be very hard for the White House. They've tried to make the case that they released the Nunes memo in the interest of transparency. So to say, well, we don't want the country to see this, I think is untenable. What I'm more concerned about, Allison, is that they make political redactions. That is, not redactions to protect sources or methods, which we've asked the Department of Justice and FBI to do, but redactions to remove information they think is unfavorable to the president. That could be a real problem, and that's our main concern at this point.
Okay, and if that were true, then what would you do?
Well, you know, we have limited recourse there. We could try to force a vote in the House of Representatives, or we can seek a declassification review with the FBI and the Department of Justice, but that takes time. So there aren't a lot of options, but it will certainly appear that the White House is trying to stonewall again if, in fact, they make these political redactions that we fear.
There are a couple of headlines from the Nunes memo that I want to bounce off of you. And I know that this is a challenge because until the president says that you can release it, I know that your rebuttal is classified. But this is out there, and I want you to try to respond to it as best you can. So one of them is that the deputy director of the FBI, McCabe, testified before your committee in December of 2017 that no surveillance warrant, no FISA court, to the FISA court would have been sought without the Steele dossier information. Is that true?
That's a characterization. It's not what Director McCabe or Deputy Director McCabe actually said. Well, I can't go into the details of what he said. Essentially, his argument was we look at this as a complete whole. All the parts of the application are important. That was really the sum and substance of what he said. The broader point, though, was that the only parts of the dossier that were included were those that pertained to Carter Page, and some of that was corroborated. We set this out in our responsive memo. So it's very important for people to understand, contrary to the very misleading impression that the GOP gives, the salacious video and all that stuff, that was not part of the FISA application, only the parts pertinent to Carter Page. And there was corroboration of some of those very important elements.
That's really helpful. So you're saying that the FISA court never saw the most salacious, uncorroborated stuff?
That's exactly right. And we'll be releasing the transcript of our hearing last night. And you can see members making this argument. And unfortunately, it's because they haven't read the underlying materials. So one of my colleagues, for example, said, well, we don't have evidence that Michael Cohen made a trip to Prague. This is also part of the dossier. But that Michael Cohen trip to Prague wasn't part of the materials provided to the FISA court. So it's very disingenuous to say, well, the FISA court was misled because we don't believe Michael Cohen went to Prague when that information was never provided to the court.
So listen, you say that the Nunes memo mischaracterizes the underlying information and what really happened. They say it doesn't. Would it be possible for you to release the actual Andrew McCabe testimony in front of your committee that was behind closed doors so everybody can read it with their own eyes?
You know, I think that, frankly, all the testimony that we're receiving ought to be released at the conclusion of our investigation. We'll have to make strategic judgments about when to release certain parts of the transcripts. The downside is, of course, you
rules disclose or reference the role of the DNC, Clinton campaign, or any party campaign in funding Steele's efforts, the dossier. Even though the political origins of the Steele dossier were known to senior and FBI officials, why not tell the FISA court that this was paid for by the Clinton campaign and DNC?
Well, as we will set out in the response, the FBI did include information about a potential political bias. It did set out information about who had provided the support for Christopher Steele.
But is this true? Is the way they're characterizing it true, that the FISA court didn't know that it was Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC?
It's not true. Not true that the FISA court didn't know of a political bias. They don't mention specific names. Now, even when they refer to Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in the FISA court application, they refer to them as Candidate 1 and Candidate 2. This is how the masking process works, and it's deeply ironic that the same people who've been complaining of improper unmasking are suggesting that names should have been unmasked in the FISA application.
But did it say Candidate 1, let's just say, paid for this?
I'm going to allow you to see exactly what they said when our release is declassified, so you can see precisely what was represented to the FISA court. I think the FISA court was made well aware of the potential political bias of those that were supporting Christopher Steele's work. And at that point, of course, there was only one other candidate in the race. But I don't want to characterize it. I'd rather have you see exactly what was said in the FISA application.
We'd sure like to see that. The president seems disinclined to do anything that you'd like him to do. He has gone after you personally. He tweeted about you. So are you worried that whatever conflict you're having with the president will get in the way of some of this?
I think the conflict is less about the president and myself and more about the president's concern over his legal liability and what is coming to light in terms of relationships between his campaign and the Russians. So I think he views this entirely through that prism, not any personal animosity between the two of us. Frankly, I think his tweets are demeaning to the presidency, and that's about it. I am concerned, though, that in an effort to protect himself, he will order political redactions. And this is why we've asked the Department of Justice and FBI separately to report to our committee anything that they recommend be redacted to protect sources and methods, so we can separate any legitimate redactions from any politics that the White House may try to impose.
Look, this is neither here nor there, but why do you have to share a nickname with Bob Corker and Marco Rubio and Kim Jong-un?
The last nickname he gave me was Sleazy Adam Schiff, now just Little Adam Schiff, which seems like an improvement. Does that mean that he's warming up to me? It's also very confusing.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you very much for explaining all of that to us. John.
All right, let's bring in reporter and editor-at-large for CNN Politics, Chris Cillizza, and associate editor for Real Clear Politics, A.B. Stoddard. It was interesting as I was listening to the ranking member there talk to Allison about the memo. In a way, they're sort of precasting aspersions on what the White House will do. The Democrats are. We heard from Adam Schiff. We heard from Jim Himes last hour. They're suggesting, I'm not so sure the president's going to release this. We think the president may stand in the way of this. Democrats, I think, like the political position they've put the president in, Chris.
Yeah, I think they should, candidly. If you are for transparency, you are for transparency. That was the argument behind the release of the Nunes memo, and that argument, I think, still holds true with the memo that Congressman Schiff wrote. Now, the issue here is one of those two memos affirmed a belief that the President of the United States has that there is a deep state conspiracy within the FBI and the Justice Department that is out to sort of undermine him. The Schiff memo presumably does less of that. So is transparency still sort of the goal, even when the information contained within that memo is not directly supportive of what the president already believes?
Hey, AB, if what Congressman Schiff just said ends up being true when and if this is released, that in the FISA warrant, they were referring to Candidate 1 and Candidate 2 as Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton or vice versa, then the Nunes memo falls apart. I mean, the headline that the FISA court was denied the information that Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC paid for the dossier, then that falls apart.
Well, also, Congressman Nunes has now admitted there was a footnote in which this political bias was reported. And so, he's having to explain that. This was an overbuilt, overhyped memo. And when you overhype something, it has to be a blockbuster. And then it wasn't. And so now that's why you heard Congressman Collins say this morning that they're going to have a rebuttal to the rebuttal. Because John is right. I mean, the president is sort of in a box here. He either blocks a memo or he releases it, and it weakens the Nunes memo even further. Anyone knows that it's important. Also, what Congressman Schiff just said, that there's only parts of the dossier that were used in the FISA application, not the entire thing.
That's really important. I mean, that's really important because they always say, this dodgy dossier, this really more scandalous, sensational stuff. And I hadn't heard him say that.
No, I actually hadn't heard that yet. That I think was news. That was very interesting.
But I also hope, and I don't know what's in the Schiff memo, obviously the Democrats' memo, but I do hope people have been Googling, the FISA warrant process and learning a bit about how filled with backstops and traps it is, how many people would have to get together to conspire to ruin their own careers, to cook up a fake, underlying basis for a FISA warrant application. We're going to hear more about the other underlying intelligence that made up the bulk of that application. But also, in the end, when you think about opposition research and the fact that investigations into, looking into Hillary Clinton's server and what she did, at the State Department with regards to the Clinton Foundation was based a lot on Peter Schweizer's book, Clinton Cash. Really, opposition research is worth nothing if it isn't true. So I'm looking forward to the Democrats' findings and see what the White House does with it. But people need to learn a lot about how rigorous the process is of getting a FISA application turned into a warrant for surveillance or renewed 3 months later.
It's interesting. The memo wars, if you will, really are a sideshow to what is the larger issue, which is the Mueller investigation into possible collusion and now obstruction as well. And there is this sort of major overnight development, Chris. The New York Times reporting that the president's lawyers don't want him to testify because they're afraid he might get caught lying. The fear among the president's lawyers, almost stated directly to the New York Times, is they're afraid he might get caught lying or might say something that puts him in legal jeopardy to the special counsel's lawyers, which is a pretty stunning admission. And look, they may be being great lawyers here. They may be protecting their client by trying to keep him from testifying for that reason. But still, we're talking about the president of the United States, so it's awfully interesting to hear that.
Yeah, thank you for your incredulity, because I feel that way too. It's a remarkable thing to say, yeah, the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, we may not have him testify due to the fact that he has lied in situations like this in the past. But it is true. Look at depositions that he's done before. I go back to my former colleagues at the Washington Post, wrote a great book called Trump Revealed, where they wrote about the fact that he had been caught a number of times either lying in a deposition or being forced to admit in a deposition he had either greatly exaggerated something about his wealth or this, that, or the other, or that he had not told the truth. So it is both, I think, probably wise legal counsel that the president is getting and sort of terrifying in that it is wise legal counsel that the president of the United States really probably can't be trusted, if past his prologue, to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under questioning from the special counsel.
And AB, then, if he doesn't agree to a request from Mueller, then we're off to subpoena land.
funding to disasters that we still haven't funded, authorizing community health centers, and take these two issues on, Dreamer status and border security, and move forward. I think this bill would be an excellent starting point for that debate on the Senate floor.
All right, President Trump does not like how Democrats behaved during the State of the Union address. Very critical of the fact that they didn't cheer at times and didn't behave the way that he wanted him to. This is what he said just yesterday.
Even on positive news, really positive news like that, they were like death and un-American. Un-American. Somebody said treasonous. I mean, yeah, I guess why not? You know, can we call that treason? Why not? I mean, they certainly didn't seem to love our country very much.
Would you call that treasonous? Yeah, why not? Now, some of the president's allies, including people in the White House, are saying, you know, he was just joking. He was just joking as the way he talks when he says that Democrats were being treasonous. Do you take it that way?
Let me be clear about this. I attended the State of the Union. I was respectful. I stood and applauded when appropriate on many of the points that I think were non-debatable. When the president was recognizing the service and sacrifice of soldiers, the North Korean who fled for his freedom, police officers and community leaders who've taken great steps. And I, of course, applauded things like economic progress and some of his proposals, like paid family leave or some of his ideas around infrastructure. But there were lots of places in his speech where the Republicans leapt to their feet to cheer.